Today we're going to talk with David Breyer and Justin Matthew, two experts in traffic generation and branding. If you're just getting started or stuck in a rut, these two will help you rise above the noise and beat your competition. I'm so excited to talk to these guys today. I am your host, Mark Fidelman, managing partner of Fanatics Media. So excited about this show. As is every show, we get great guests. This is David's second time. He impressed us so much the first time that we brought him back. Justin, of course.
Blab.
Yeah, it's first time with Justin. As a reminder, we're about how-to content, not fluffy stuff you hear from everybody else. We're going to drill down and really show you how to rise above the noise. That's really our purpose. If you have any questions,
a new slogan.
Start with a /Q, put that on the right-hand side, and then your question after the /Q will show up on the left-hand side, and we'll be able to answer it throughout the blab, or at the end, we might open it up. Please tweet out the blab on the left-hand side and subscribe to our guests and give them props, which are those little hand clappy things in the bottom right-hand side.
Tons of props. Yeah. This is like a testosterone test. It's like who can out-prop who.
Yeah, and Grant Cardone is usually the winner of that. So let's start with an introduction, then we're going to jump right in. David is a two-time guest. So instead of introducing him again, I just encourage you to head over to his blog, www.risingabovethe.noise.com, and check it out. It's an MBA in branding. I mean it. Go check it out. But he does want us to believe that he does all his own graphics. I call bullshit on that, but I can't prove that either way.
Every time I need a graphic, David, you say, yeah, let me get that back to you. And, it's the next day, always the next day. So I'm thinking he's on Fiverr, going to his go-to guy, $10.
You could have somebody chained to his desk.
Wait 24-hour time limit.
Oh, man, just throw me into the bus, guys. This is unbelievable. I love being ganged up. Within the first few minutes of a show, when you're ganged up upon, the rest of the show is going to crush it.
Par for the course here, especially your second time, David.
Absolutely.
And we also have Justin Matthew of iBoom. After achieving viral status on almost every platform, he's got his channel he's built up on YouTube with over 3 million subscribers. Google Plus, although I think Google Plus is going away. His posts average 33,000 views. And these are just examples. He's also done a lot on Fiverr. I can't wait to talk to him about distribution and how he helps distribute some of the content and the branding and the messaging and all that. So we're going to jump right in, gentlemen. And I'm going to start with David.
Now, one thing I just need to say to compliment your introduction of Justin. See, Justin is so successful at what he does that they actually had to throw him into a witness protection program into an undisclosed location in the Midwest. That's where he is right now. That's why he's drinking something odd in his coffee. We don't even know if it's actually coffee or something else. But that's
now, is that why the blinds are closed behind him?
Yes.
Are there bars on those windows?
There are snipers on the roofs around him. They're looking for him. He's like,
literally.
Okay, fair enough.
I have the high ground.
This is going to turn into a comedy show. I can tell already. All right. So, David, we're going to start with you. Why is it important to have both great branding and a content distribution plan?
Well, like I say to anybody, I mean, one of the things that happens early in conversations with clients, whether they're startups or established brands, everyone wants to be, they want this to go viral. They want that to be heard. They want that to be read. At which point I'm saying, so what's the actual message that you want to get out there? And there's usually two scenarios. One is they either have no message, or two, they list out very proudly how they're the best in the business, how they've got state-of-the-art equipment, how they've got knowledgeable staff, blah, 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 cliche, cliche, cliche. And I said, thank you very much. Now, I have no doubts or reservations of the fact that if I went to any of your competitors, that they would actually tell me the exact same thing. So let's be honest with one another. Now tell me why someone should actually give a shit as to why you exist in the world. Let's be real. And that's when they kind of have that moment of, maybe we actually don't have something to actually say yet that actually is going to be meaningful. So I tell them we can either go for a really aggressive content distribution, in which case I bring Justin into the picture, And that simply allows more of the world to know faster that they have nothing to say. Or we can do it in the proper sequence and actually develop what is going to be meaningful, because there's always a noise level. Mm-hmm. That's the thing it often gets overlooked. There's a noise level. Different industries have different noise levels. Some are loud and crazy. Some are very, very so niche that it's actually much quieter. But you have to assess that noise level, because unless you know where that noise level is, that threshold, you have no idea what do you need to go do to get beyond that and say something that's going to be meaningful, and then with sufficient volume, which is where Justin comes in, because I work on the substance. Justin works on the actual sufficient volume to penetrate and get it out there and have it be meaningful.
Okay, so Justin, speaking of which, and I think David segued perfectly to you. Oh, he's gone, so we'll have to get him back. David, I'm gonna go back to you.
Very
Justin
good.
will be back. He'll dive right back in. So, you talk about branding. You talk about differentiating yourself. That your competitors are basically saying the same thing, but you talk about what 3 questions every brand must answer before getting started or creating content or even jumping over to distribution. And we'll talk about Justin when he joins us. So what are those 3 questions and why are they important?
Oh, you're actually testing me out for my own blog, which I have to look, because I've made so many checklists. Let me see here.
Well,
I'm going to actually check this out, because I know I've got 3 questions every brand must answer. Cool. I've got it. Good. So because I've got so many checklists. All right. You ready?
Yep.
Bang. So the first one is obviously, who are our prospective customers, right? Who are we talking to? We've got to identify them. And what I do is I give people an example. If you don't do it right, you're going blind. And an example I give is, let's say we have a lovely red car in a car showroom, right? We've got a father and a son who walk in there. Now, what happens is the father's looking at this nice red car. And it's not like in a soup. It's not like some exotic Italian thing, but it's a nice, affordable, but it's shiny, it's red, looks cool, nice lines. Father's looking at this and he's thinking, safety rating, miles per gallon, this and that, the other, blah, 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 blah. And hold on 1 second. Justin is actually asking, how do you get back in? I'm going to say relog back in.
It's time to refresh.
And
an open seat.
Your browser. Bam. Okay, he's got that.
All right.
Good. And so what happens is you've got the father's looking at this. He's got the safety rating. Welcome back.
Hey, sorry about that. Kick me off.
He's got the safety rating and he's got the miles per gallon. And now the son, looking at the exact same vehicle, is looking at this vehicle and he's thinking to himself, chick magnet. So the same thing, but 2 totally different audiences. So if that car manufacturer didn't actually identify who they were talking to, you wouldn't send the kid's message to the father. You wouldn't send the father's message to the kid. So that's an example.
Hey, I'm not sure exactly what I missed, but once you've done all that and you put all that work in that you do, right? You put a ton of work in figuring out that information, how to portray it, how to get it in front of the right people, how to make it, stand out, rise above the noise, all of that, which you have to have. But then comes equally as important or even more important, getting it in front of that audience. It's easier said than done. You've got this great brand, great message, it's ready to go. And you realize, well, hey, we have no one to actually show this to at this point.
Yeah.
So all at the same time, you've got to be building your networks, know who your target audience is, come up with creative content on a daily basis, not just a general brand, message, but on a daily basis, you have to have a message as well that's interesting, engaging, and keeps people interested. So if you don't have those systems in play, you're going to fail. So it takes an all-out assault on both ends, which is why I think you and I make a perfect combination.
Okay, but you guys are talking in the theoretical, okay? Justin, how specifically, we're all competing with BuzzFeed. We're competing with my company who does a pretty damn good job with distribution. You're competing with the New York Times. You're competing with influencers. How specifically can brands get their message out there so that they can rise above the noise?
Well, number one, you have every brand trying to do just that.
Yeah, exactly.
So fundamentally, your message has to be something like David said, that you know, when you read it yourself, you know it's something special. When you see it for yourself, you know it's something special. And something you haven't seen before, has a different angle. So that's first and foremost. You've got to have something unique and creative, and you have to have someone like David to create that. From there, you really have to have a system of processes, tools, and a strategy for each network. And you need to figure out which core networks do you want to focus on. For some companies, you know, there may be networks like Pinterest that make more sense than Facebook, you know, or YouTube makes more sense than Twitter, or Twitter advertising makes more sense than Facebook advertising. So you need to figure out which of those makes the most sense for your company. I prefer to do them all. Okay, you can't go wrong that way. You know, it takes really diving in, figuring out systems, looking at who your target audience is, using the data that's available to you from these networks. That's the key. The data available to a marketer these days, okay, is incredible. You know, I would go as far to say 15, 20 years ago, companies probably paid, you know, 7 figures for what we have available to us now, okay, the information. So that's the key. You need to be a king of the information and the research and the data that's out there. Utilize that. And then once you have, you can literally go out and get your custom audience. You can go out and create that audience. You can go engage with those people on a daily basis. And then word of mouth spreads and your network grows organically. But in the first and foremost, it's all about the data and the information, which is there for everybody today.
Okay, but even then, right, if I'm on Twitter, I get pretty good engagement.
Okay.
But if I go to a channel like YouTube, we're building our YouTube channel. But there are people that have millions of subscribers, like your brother and the one that you helped build on YouTube. How the heck did they? Yep. How did they? Me trying to compete with Household Hacker, if I'm pushing similar products, it's no competition. So what would you tell a company trying to compete with your own YouTube channel to rise above the noise using YouTube? Let's just say that their audience is on YouTube. They're not on any other channel. I know this is not reality, but let's focus in on a specific use case. How would you tell them to compete against that channel?
Number one, I wouldn't compete against anybody. You know, I create what I'm trying to do, what my goals are, and compete with myself. So you kind of got to tune out what else is going on and try not to size yourself up to other channels that may have been around from the start. You know, when there was 98% less, you know, subscribers on Facebook, it was easier for them to get there. Who knows? All you can do is control what you can, and that's making the good content, making sure your video is interesting. Look, you can't, people think they can just go out there, film themselves running up a hill, and it's going to go viral or something. You know, everyone thinks they're a director creator. You really got to spend the time to make sure it's quality information, that the knowledge is something people want to learn about. Then yes, there is a skill involved in making sure you can grow your subscriber base. Absolutely. And the only way you can do that is by growing your other social networks, whether you want to or not. So in order to get more YouTube subscribers, you may not like Twitter or Facebook, but you need to utilize those networks to grow your followers there, which is much easier to do it on those forums than YouTube. Okay? There's systems for every network. For example, Twitter, right? You say you have a Twitter account. I think you have 50,000 followers or something, right?
Something like that.
I think so. Okay, and you should know that. And I'm sure you're following a certain amount of people as well, because you know the follow-unfollow game, right? People follow, they unfollow, right? Well, there's systems you can utilize that are out there and tools that are out there that you can more or less gain anywhere from 100 to 300 target followers a day on these networks, every day, day in, day out, okay? And as you grow those networks, you need to be, you know, your core content strategy is YouTube. So you only go after people interested in YouTube and video and things like that. You make sure that you create 3 to 5, 6 different tweets a day around your YouTube channel, around YouTube as a whole, industry news about YouTube. So you become known as someone that is on YouTube and is updating about the latest in the industry. So people will start to follow you based on that interest, and that's how you build your YouTube channel.
But what would be one
specific And that's just one example.
One specific thing on Twitter that I could do to push my YouTube channel. I mean, I already do. I post the episodes, and I keep them in something called Jukebox, where I'll post it once a week. But what are some of the other things that you'd recommend that I do in order to make sure that the YouTube channel gets more subscribers? I got 500 or so.
Okay, is that your core strategy on that Twitter channel, on that Twitter network? Is that all you do?
Is basically where I get the most engagement, and I push, I entertain, and then 1 out of every 10 tweets, I got something that leads back to our website or YouTube. Is my primary strategy.
Maybe 1 out of every 10, and that's daily or weekly or what?
Well, daily. It's probably 35 tweets a day.
Okay.
Most of them have
yeah, that's good.
Most of them have very good engagement.
Right. No, that's right. And the thing is, only 1-2% of your Twitter followers are probably going to see that tweet anyway. So when it's only 1 a day, leading back to your YouTube, it should be more like 10 to 15 a day. Number one. Wow. And it should also be the core focus of that actual network. That should be the core focus. You've got a lot going on, it sounds like. You've got this, that, you've got your show here. You've got other things you do, articles. So you've got all, types of diverse things coming in. There needs to be a dedicated channel to just YouTube, the industry, and building that channel. And a blog dedicated to YouTube, what's going on, and building your channel. Facebook page dedicated to just that purpose. Once you've done that, and you say that's your focus, well, then you need to act like it on social media. If that's your focus, then it needs to be, obviously relevant. And it has to be your primary objective. It sounds like now you just kind of throw out a tweet here and there when you have something, but it's not something you're pouring the hours into. It takes work.
The other thing too, though, is that I've used very successfully is that any brand tends to really get a little almost myopic just on like, here's what we're doing, and and they lose really the whole perspective on why they're doing what they're doing. What's the bigger role, the bigger purpose? And so you've got so many channels, Mark, that I consistently, I'll do a post and I will then reference a prior video or a prior post, and I will continuously cross-reference them because they all share a common thread. They're all about, basically rising above the noise. They're about standing apart. They're about differentiating your brand. They're about being something meaningful that it lasts, that transcends time, not just some little cool trend du jour. So
the same message, right? Consistent.
It's that interconnectivity, and then all of a sudden, people start going, "Oh my God!" And they link and they cross-link and they start seeing all these things, and it starts to build and build and build because it seems, and this is one thing that Justin has really shown me a lot. With any of these channels, one kind of seems to hit a certain threshold, and maybe it kind of plateau a little bit, and then it kind of takes up a whole new level. Like now, I think I have about 13,000 followers on Instagram, and now when I put something on Instagram, it takes to a whole new level so much faster than when I had, 10,000 even.
A lot of people just don't remember this. You can change your Instagram link to a YouTube channel, Mark.
Yeah.
So those 13,000 followers he has on Instagram, well, his bio on Instagram is taking them to his YouTube channel, right? And that continues to grow. So you're getting subscribers that way as well. And that's just another small example of what you can do on a daily basis.
Okay, great advice around building a channel. How about leveraging the channel for distribution if you're just starting out? Would you guys have an influencer recommendation strategy? Or let's say I'm a brand, I have a company that's going to sell celebrity T-shirts, and these are limited edition T-shirts. Let's just say I'm starting a company that has that. I have no social presence. How do you recommend I go about getting distribution for these? And let's say they're the best designed T-shirts ever, right? And the celebrities signed off on it. How do I go and get that distributed?
That would obviously you've heard the term social influencers, right?
Yeah.
Individuals that have a large following in certain areas of the business, right? So there's companies out there now that their business is putting together social influencers in situations like yours.
Yeah.
And they match you up with somebody that has already got a large following and niche in that specific market. So for a broker fee, they'll put you together. So you could always do something like that. And I even know some people that founded a company like that called NeoReach. It's very successful. So you could always go that route if you're looking for a quick fix. You got some capital. They connect you with 2 or 3 influencers, and guess what? Now they're putting your stuff on their Instagram that's getting 44,000 likes and 8,000 comments per post, right? They're putting something on their Twitter that
on Instagram. You can't link to anything. So are you pushing Instagram as a way to?
There's only one place you can link is in your bio.
In the profile.
Yeah.
In your bio.
You're a celebrity.
In your bio.
They're not going to change the bio picture unless you pay them a lot of money to a link to your T-shirt.
Well, that's right. Yeah, there's a fee involved. Right. Now, that's one way, okay, for distribution.
Yeah,
that's just one way
in mind.
you can do it.
But here's where branding comes.
And David, and don't forget, you can now do Instagram ads, and they are clickable.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, but for example, this is where the smart stuff comes into play. Like, for example, there was a client of mine out of Massachusetts. Ex-New Yorker, he now lives in Massachusetts, and he finally, he's won Grammys and all this kind of stuff. And he's hit these incredible milestones in his life. Now he's like, you know what? I'm going to go back to what I love, which is he loves the incredible deli meats of New York, pastrami and all this kind of stuff. And he goes, it's a lost art. They don't do it the same way they used to do it. That's what he tells me. And I'm like, all right, cool. So he flies out, makes this stuff. It smells up the entire office with this incredible aroma. It's amazing. But when we tried to look in terms of names, domains, this, that, the other, nothing, everything was taken. Anything having to do with deli was completely taken. So the bright idea, I looked at this whole thing. I developed a slogan, more flavor per pound, which is great because the bottom line is, hey, you want less flavor per pound? You can go with this brand. You want more flavor per pound? Buy ours. And so, but that also became the domain. So moreflavorperpound.com is a great message, and it's also something that could go on anything. So if you develop and look at all the little bits and pieces, that would be a little component that maybe ties in with your brand of T-shirts that becomes like a really cool sort of a mantra that people really dig, right?
No, David, that's definitely a part of it. He wants to know how you get that out there,
right?
How you're doing that information. That way I was mentioning to you is certainly one. And yes, what David's mentioning, we're assuming you already have all of that worked out, and you've worked with someone like that.
We've hired David. He's done the branding. Mm-hmm. He's got the T-shirt company branded correctly. Now I come to you, Justin, and I say, oh shit, how do we get this message out there? There's so much competition with T-shirts.
Okay. Yeah.
How do we do it?
Absolutely. So that's the way I gave you is just a quick fix, not something to recommend. What I would do if you came to me with that exact situation, number one, the first thing I do, across the board, is we establish your social media networks. I see what you've got, what you don't got. The way what you're saying, it looks like you don't have a Facebook, you don't have a Twitter, you don't have an Instagram, you don't have a Pinterest, you don't have a Google Plus.
I do, but it's fictional situation. They don't.
Okay, exactly. Fictional. First of all, we get those all set up and established. Yep. Okay. We use the icons that you've already have an idea of, the cover pages. If you don't have that, we can recommend, an idea of what it should look like. So we establish those networks. We try to set them all up in the exact same name as possible, the same handles, right?
Yep.
The same URLs where we can, right? Then we go and look at
continuity.
Yeah, exactly. Who is your target audience? Who would buy these specifically? Yeah, sure, anyone might like to buy it, but who's got a better chance of this really hitting a home run with, right? So we need to isolate that audience. We'll take, obviously you've probably done some type of research. You have some idea. We'll take what you have to say, and then we'll do what we do as well. We'll come across probably an age demographic, that looks most likely to purchase this item based on certain things we look at. Of course, data that I already have available to me working with over 60 clients right now. I can look at past information to understand that. I'll come up with a list of names of companies that may do something similar that you're doing right now. Or maybe even exactly, let's face it, there's a lot of companies out there. Some of those companies are going to have dedicated buyers already, followers, active networks, that are already successful, right?
Yeah.
So we will create a target list of those followers. We will filter out people that, say, for example, joined or followed the company 2 years ago. They haven't tweeted or made a post since, right? We'll put in filters that eliminate inactives, that eliminate spam profiles, people with no profile images, and we'll get to the meat of the best of the best. So we're down to a specific target list. We can go after and engage those followers every day with systems that we have. And literally overnight, you're going to have social media following, engagement, word of mouth. I say we create a contest to do a giveaway, right? That's always huge. That creates massive brand awareness. And literally word of mouth will take it to a place where you start to get notoriety. You want to create a blog and write content, your YouTube, and then you use the other networks that I'm building. And you want to do Facebook advertising as well. Huge. Okay. So you've got to have a little bit of a budget. But if you do all of those things and someone like myself that has a system for each one of those networks, you'll see the growth yourself. And you'll be convinced enough to realize that's the correct path to go. We'll talk specifics. We'll figure out what your budget is. okay? And then we can go forward, but you'll see enough that first week to get that this is the right way to do this.
So Justin, you talk about systems, and I know we don't have enough time to cover probably every single social network. So this is a process that you would go through with the company. I basically outlined 6 things. I think Facebook, you could find virtually any customer anywhere. I mean, that's our research.
Yes,
and if you get really good at Facebook, you can acquire customers for under 10 cents. I mean, it's just amazing what you can do on Facebook right now if you're not using it.
I've been on it. That's what I focus most of my day on.
I also find YouTube, especially if you're dealing with channels like your brothers, can really move the needle. I think they're starting to get expensive if depending on who you are or what your product is. But if you could find an influencer on YouTube, because YouTube makes it really easy to find or to link to offers from YouTube, whether in the comments or the video itself. And also,
the problem with that, though, you're right. It's massive. Like, we used to create the video around our promotion that time. So we, might be the client might be an alarm system. So our video is how to create a, invisible safe, right? Household hacker. So it's already kind of around that idea. And then by the time we get to the promotion, it's nice and easy. It gels right through. The people don't even realize they're watching an ad, right? So, and you get that huge, let's say 3 million people watch that. Obviously, you already need to know the demographics of the YouTube influencer you've chosen. Who are their viewers, right? What's their age? Are this the person that would be interested in what I'm trying to sell? So you need to know all of that information. But once it's done, it's done. Building the social media networks is every day. It's an investment in your own company. It's an investment. For all the advertising hard work you're doing, you're building a customer base that can buy from you again, again, and again. You can go back to those people anytime you want. So that's really the long-term view. But yeah, YouTube, if you got the money to get, if you got, and I know how much it is, quite a bit. If you can do that, hey, absolutely more power to you. But you got to make sure you do your research and find the right channel for what you're doing.
So David, do you have any hacks around distribution that you'd like to share? I know you're an expert on branding, but you must be helping clients by either introducing them to Justin or telling them, doing it themselves. What are your kind of specific hacks to getting that branding, that message, that content out there?
Well, from the standpoint of specifically distribution, obviously, I mean, I get it everywhere and everywhere, but a majority of my focus is really in the area of, and this is what most people don't get right, 80% of my 80 to 85% of what I actually send out there is stuff that is valuable information for my audience. Only 15% or so will occasionally I'll might do something that's a kind of a pitch, and that is, so many people don't get that ratio right. If you are not providing value consistently, your value to me equals branding equals differentiation. If I am providing value consistently, people come to know me as that person to go for. So as a result, that's one of the tricks, because then I can share that valuable information and I can share it with this person, with that person. Like for example, some people say, "Well, hey David, how did you and Daymond John get to know each other?" Well, that was because I had written a piece, being a fan of Shark Tank. I had written a piece for Fast Company that basically said, there are 4 characteristics that seem to be common from all of those who actually get deals. So here's how to basically own the room and not get eaten alive. That was my article. Well, Daymond John, somewhere within a day or two, saw this article, and he said, and tweeted out to all his followers, "This is the best article on Shark Tank ever written, period." And I was like...
And that's where your target audience comes into play, Mark. That's, for example, if we isolated Shark Tank as David's target audience, which we have, we're already engaging with those followers. So we put ourselves in a position for Daymond to see that article. And that's really the key in what social media does for you. That's a perfect example of that.
And that resulted in this. Hold on.
Well,
I'm surprised you didn't have it ready to go.
Yeah, me neither. It's lined up behind him. This is all great, but go ahead.
Yeah.
And that resulted,
what specifically?
And that resulted, January 7th through the 14th, I was out of the country talking to all these entrepreneurs from around the world. On my way back, I have a layover in Miami. I call my office. They say, you have this amazing package. Like, and usually it's like, anything I need to know about? Oh, stuff. You got mail. You got this out there. You'll see it when you get back. This was like, this is a package we need to tell you about. So Damon's new book, The Power of Broke, it had been sent. Damon sent it with a wonderful personalized inscription in it. But in addition to that, he actually presented me. This is from the actual. He's a presidential ambassador for global entrepreneurship. Damon was designated that last year. He sent this to me. I will show you as best as I can. Right there, that he actually gave me my own pin, and it is actually it is just, and this sucker this has weight, man. I am using all of my muscles in my body to hold this thing up. It is.
I'm jealous.
But I'm
jealous.
This is what he actually. So you never know where these things go, but this is incredible. One, it's a demonstration of how Damon is, because Damon is incredibly gracious. But all of that and me having this is all an outgrowth from just really reaching out and consistently providing value.
Every day.
Value.
Right. Every day you're reaching out, you're proactively building your networks. You know what you're doing. I could tell you an exact system specifically, depends how down you want to get to it.
Well,
but
if you could do it within a few minutes, because this will be turned into content that's written as well. But my main thing is a brand without a social following. Now, David, it's taken you years to build it. It's taken me 3 years to build 50,000, 55,000 followers on Twitter. 3 years. So somebody just starting out doesn't have that luxury. So what I want to know is how we do it immediately.
Well, I'll tell you. Well,
David, 1 year.
I'll tell you. Well, first of all, Justin. We basically started working together. I don't know about a year and a half ago, and I kind of reached out. I learned of iBoom, Justin's company, and I kind of looked at what they were doing. I looked at what I was doing, and anyway, there seemed to be a real symbiotic relationship. And so, anyway, I started working, and what Justin probably over 10x'd in 12 months, over 10x'd my amount of actual real Twitter followers. Okay, I went from having no Instagram account. I figured I thought that was for teeny boppers. That was my understanding. And to basically having over, I think 13,000 today. But even as a more concrete example, Justin has, worked with Jeremy, who he could tell you about. And just in the course of the last 3 or 4 weeks, just to give you an idea that someone can go from nothing to something, provided that they have good content, and 2, that they have the right team in place to
the right audience
work to the right audience and to work and on that distribution angle. But Justin can give you the specifics on what's happened with Jeremy.
Right. No, thanks for bringing that up. We did a podcast about 3 weeks ago, David and I, the Create Your Own Life podcast with Jeremy Ryan Slate, up and coming guy. He's done Grant Cardone's VP and a whole bunch of other guys, and he really wasn't focusing on his social media because all his time was making these podcasts and going out and setting up the shows. And, sure, he had the Twitter with 400 followers, had, different accounts and things like that, but didn't have the time to build and didn't have a team in place. So when I saw this, I asked him that specifically. And he said, well, I've had my Twitter since 2008. It just is what it is, I guess. Sure, I post when I have a post, but that's it. I said, well, look, before we do the interview, let me actually do what I do for my clients for you, okay, a week into this, before we're on the show. He said, all right, sure. So I got his Twitter account. I looked at who his target audience would be based on the theme of his podcast and, the type of person that would want to listen to that, entrepreneur type deal. And literally before the show, got him up to 1,200 followers, from 400 to 1,200, okay, in 1 week, okay. Doing the system that iBoom Media uses to build someone's Twitter account. We have a specific system. We have different tools, okay? And we utilize that and do it every day, 7 days a week, okay? 365 a year, every day. It's a system of basically find your target audience to a degree, but no. You have to, to a degree, engaging, commenting, taking interest in what they're tweeting, okay? Actually putting a like on something that they've tweeted. Making a comment on something that they've mentioned, not just follow. Then on top of that, finding the people that are the most likely to be active and engaging with you. Okay, if you just follow 1,000 people, 900 of those accounts might be inactive, spam, not really interested. Last time they tweeted 8 months ago. What's the point of that? That's a fundamentally flawed system. You're not going to really grow or gain anything noteworthy. So you got to go deeper than that, okay? And if you're willing to do that, which we have a system that allows us to do it probably 20, 30 times faster than it would take on your own, then you can see direct results. Jeremy's downloads doubled during that week period, and since then, from a guy that's been around doing this for 5 months on his podcast, and in 1 week, his downloads doubled off iTunes. So what was done differently? Twitter. So it's a direct result. And like I said, look, there's tools out there. Look, there's tools out there called Tweepy. Managed Flitter is a good one. Yeah, Managed Flitter, if you use it, here's the key. You can get all these tools, but people use the tool at 10% of its potential. Once you get the tool, go through it A to Z. Try every single feature. Set up maybe a dummy account that doesn't really concern you, to be honest. You just set it up and practice on that account. Figure out the limits, how far you can push it. What happens if I combine this feature with that feature? Will something happen? I don't know. You can create your own combinations, your own system within the Managed Flitter system. And that's just a small example, with all the tools that are out there of what you can do. You don't want to just dive in there and play around. You might get your account suspended. But I'll just tell you this, the opportunity is there for anyone to be able to do this if they just go out there and exert and use the potential of some of these tools.
Okay, so I'm going to answer my question, and I'm going to see if you two agree or disagree. So if you have no followers, I like the Managed Flitter system to follow your audience that you want to follow you back. I think that's very effective. They have very, very good filters. But if I had no audience, I'd start with influencers in Facebook. And the influencers that I do the research, of course, I do the branding, but influencers already have the audience. So I'd leverage the influencers distribution, and I get my product out there that way. I'd also have the influencer get their followers to follow me. On Facebook, the targeting there is unbelievable. So you can find your audience on Facebook with over 1 billion people on it. You could find your audience. And the trick on Facebook is to making sure it's cost effective. So getting it under 20 cents, well, depending on what you're selling, of course. But if we're using a T-shirt example, getting it under $1 a lead is where I would go. And then leading them something from Facebook, not to a T-shirt purchase, unless that T-shirt's that good, but to something that gives them a little bit more value before the purchase, but gives you their email address so you could target them continually. So that for us is what we would do if you've got no audience. We'd also look at YouTube depending on what it is that you're selling. So you guys agree, disagree? Have any other thoughts on that?
I agree with that in general. What you really want to do is you were correct. You really want to gather as much data as you can as far as the email addresses. Okay. And if you don't have any, you're starting from blank. I'll get a new client and they might supply me with an email list of 40,000 customers. Mm-hmm. Okay, literally. And I can just hit those 40,000 up every day on Facebook and create lookalike audiences, and I'm jamming right off the bat. Yeah. Okay, then I get another customer, hey, our website just went up a week ago. We've got nothing. Okay, so it's up to you. Those are the toughest jobs, all right? And that's before custom audiences, that's how I had to do every client, So, I'm used to it. So what you really want to do is the first thing you've got to do is find the best tool to run a contest through. Contest, yeah, anyone can say that, but running it and doing it effectively is a completely different thing. And, if you set it up the right way, you need to obviously build some page fans first to your Facebook page. That's first and foremost. You have to build some fans, at least 1,000 fans. And you can do this for 10 to 30 cents a like if you do it correctly usually. Yeah. Then you put the contest down. In order to enter the contest, okay, whatever your prize is, they need to enter their name and email address, okay? If this is done right, I've had contests net me 15, 20,000, okay, over a 2-week period, okay? Entries, okay? And I spent a couple $100, okay? Mm-hmm. So now I've got 15, 20,000 people I can go to directly via email, and then that's really where your company starts to take off. But that's the first step of what you would need to do if you have nothing.
David, any thoughts on that?
If you're in contact with influencers, Mark, look, most people aren't. Most people don't have an avenue to just go, hey, my buddy's an influencer. Let's see if he'll help me out. Let's face it, 99.9999% do not have that capability. But if you do, then absolutely you use whatever form's available to you. But for most people, they're going to have to go the route I just explained, and it can be hugely successful.
Yeah, there are many companies, ours included, that will introduce you to those influencers. Some of them are cost effective, some aren't, but that's really the job of the agency or the platform to weed the wheat from the chaff. Yeah, David, any comments on that?
There's networks out there of influencers. Yeah. I'm a member of called Empire Cred. Okay, and it's got clout and Cred. I don't know. They're very, very known in the social media industry. Mm-hmm. I'm a social media influencer on Cred. I'm one of their top advertisers, one of their top social influencers, and that has opened up a network of other influencers to me. Thousands and thousands of people that all they do is social media all day. That's it. So the contacts I make through an Empire Cred, and I recommend anyone that wants to be in contact with influencers or learn more about social media and be a part of that life to check out Empire Cred. You'll certainly meet people that are willing to help you. They'll go out of their way. These are people that might have 300,000 Twitter followers, that are saying, hey, here's what I did. You want to come chat or you want to Skype and we can go over some things. Empire Cred is great. So there's tools like that out there available. People just need to be aware of them and be proactive and join them.
Yeah. Okay. David, any thoughts on that?
I mean, I think you guys really have covered a lot of it. I mean, my only thing would be, building really, really, really valuable stories around those who share your values. It's to the one trick. There's a trick about, and it's more branding focused than it is distribution focused. But it's the thing that most people don't get. If you really nail your brand voice, you become an extension of your actual audience, as opposed to being like pitch mode of like, hey, we're trying to like pound something home and we're an outsider. No, all of a sudden you become like an annex. So you become a sort of an additional component to their values. Oh wow, he supports this or she supports that. And to that extent, if you really framework your content properly, that becomes it totally changes the dynamic of how you actually communicate. So my focus is more on the content that you get out there, and then obviously rolling out what you guys have covered totally makes sense.
And when you give me something that you put that effort in, it makes my job that much easier. Yep. If I'm giving a dud and that's all I've got, it's an uphill battle. I mean, I've got to fight tooth and nail, and I already know, and I'm not, I already know in the back of my mind this could be better, so it's really tough to make it. But, if I have someone like yourself, and you've already done your work on it, then it comes to me. We know it's a straight line to success, and it really is. So you have to be able to focus on both those sides, which are two different skill sets, really. But two different kind of part of the brain in a way. But you have to be able to do that, and you have to really know. I can't impress this enough because I've done it. I went through it. I was on Fiverr. I was selling honestly 150 gigs a day. That's how I started in social media. I was doing every network, everything. So I know kind of what it takes, to get through and punch through. So you really have to have that done. And I would even recommend Fiverr as a place to learn what others are doing, see what's available out there, some of the options that you have, all of that type of thing. But you do make it easy, and you really have to find your custom audiences. Like I said, your target audience is the key. People really will slack off on that, and they'll just say, it's someone that's interested in fitness. We'll find out, is it male, female? What part of the country are they more likely to be in? For some reason, these 7 states make up 68% of the sales of this item. No point to do all 50 states. Let me just do let me do this particular part of the market. I'm saving money there. People over 50 don't typically buy this item. Only 3% of the market is over 50. So let's do 18 to 49. So you just go down the list that specifically, and you'll really lock in a phenomenal price. You're saying, 20 cents, maybe it'll be 4 cents because you've gone down politically, for some reason, who knows why, 78% are Republican. You can look up all of this data. It's out there. Single or married, you can go down the line, and then boom, you got your audience done the right way. You got someone like David with the branding done. You have someone like me building, telling you these things, and you're going to be on fire. It's that simple.
Okay, so I want to return to what David suggested earlier. This is actually one of my questions here, but I love telling stories. We like telling stories, but how does a brand come up with a story to hand off to Justin to kind of get out there and promote? How does that work, David?
Well, normally what one has to do, one has to look at the space that they're in, right? So I'll give you for instance, Defiance Fuel, and your listeners can go to risingabovethenoise.com and actually read about that. They just type in, search Defiance Fuel. Defiance Fuel is a bottled water, 25 years in R&D. Now you could say, and it's specifically for athletes. And you can go, oh crap! All right, well wait a second, that's Gatorade space, right? That's Gatorade. They own that, right? And I start learning a little bit of all the inside information with regard to what the real truth is, which I won't announce here. Someone wants to call me, they can call me. But it's an interesting insider information. But with all that being said, I find that we can't now go and say, oh, we're better, we're this or we're that, or because what this product does is it actually it takes any athlete and it cuts their recovery time in half by testimony. I mean, and it was just unbelievable. So I had to create what was the message and point that wasn't being told, the story that wasn't being told on behalf of the athletes, not what was the story that wasn't being told on behalf of our water. That wasn't the issue. The issue was that we have athletes who are being fed stuff with sugar and carbs and all kinds of stuff. And, there are those who don't really dig that as a solution. And so what was the need? What was the frustration? What was the pain point that we could become the voice of? And that's where the name Defiance Fuel came from. That's where the slogan Defy Limitation was born out of, speaking to them. And when you see the video that was created, the video was about, hey, and it was literally it was like the voiceover it was a brilliant voiceover, brilliant script. I wrote it. I did write it, Mark, and I did art direct it. I did go down and direct it, and I got testimony. I have an alibi. No.
I'll back you up anytime.
So what was the story? How did you come up with the story for Defiance Fuel?
Well, the story was this. The story was that that we as athletes are not just a target audience and a demographic for ad agencies just to pick and go, hey, there's some place that we could shovel product. It's like, and we're more than that. We know that we exist, and to do what we do and to overcome the limitations that we overcome, we need fuel.
You know what it is, David? You really have to create an interesting angle.
Yeah.
That's all. It may not just be about the fuel, but the story may be about what that fuel is used for.
Absolutely.
It
was being used to defy limitation. Because the interesting thing with every one of those athletes, limitation could be the various different things. Limitation for a weightlifter is going to be gravity. Limitation for a runner is going to be either the distance or the time. Or a limitation in a competitive sport is going to be the opposition.
Yeah.
Or
each one of those is a story.
And so the whole.
Where did you guys? But did you sit in a room and come up with this idea, or did you guys kind of bounce it off each other? What specific tools or process did you guys go through to make that story?
I looked at I spoke with my client who was dealing with some of the local athletic, the high schools, the colleges, and I said, all right, help me understand that universe of people, right? Because that's a community. Those are people.
Yeah.
They get up. They work their body, they push their body, they do all the various things they need to do to perform to a level. You can't get by with an excuse such as, well, I guess I wasn't in the zone today. That doesn't cut it when you're an athlete, right? You just like, bam, you're either all in or you're not in at all. So I started to listen to that, and I started to understand, and it came from, one, getting the name, and I said, bounce these names off of your athletes. And so Defiance Fuel totally hit. Defy Limitation, it was like they were a slam dunk. It was like, bam, we're in. And we had a few different alternates. They didn't quite resonate as much. So getting that, I started to look at, okay, so what is their deal? And then I had to look at with what the existing solutions are that are out there. Okay, the most obvious existing solution is Gatorade. They're right. So you go, okay, what's their pitch? How are they promoting their stuff? And because branding is the art of differentiation, we know that. So if they're promoting their product as this, how am I going to present it in a way that is different, that aligns to this story? Because we know that Defy Limitation was a core value of theirs. How do I now develop and carve a message that backs that up and gives a voice to that meaning and that purpose in life. And that was the sequence of how it developed. So it wasn't a matter of sitting in and I cull my information, I observe what I observe, and I am not a major advocate of, okay, let's all sit in a room and just do.
Oh, David, I got it too. And we use social media as also a testing forum as well.
Yes.
You've got general ideas. You can tell them that as well.
That is correct.
That was a great tool.
Yeah, and actually Justin and I just did that just 6 weeks ago for my next book. We actually had 5 different titles. Same book, but 5 different titles. And so we actually found the title that actually now crushes it. Completely, utterly crushes it, obliterates it, pounds it to the ground.
Wait.
And you're not going to announce it on the show? Are you going to announce it here?
I can tell you. It's brand intervention is actually what
brand intervention. It is good. Yeah. Excellent.
And what we did, Mark, is we actually put those 5 possibilities out there. We put it on Facebook using the same image and then the different titles, right?
Yeah.
And then after 3 days, we saw which one had the most impressions, the most reach, the most interaction, spending the same amount on each. And it was by far and away that was the winner. It wasn't even close. It had 3 times more than the closest. So that's how we use social media to help us there.
That's so weird because that's the title of my next book, David. I just it's so weird. What a coincidence.
No, it really is a coincidence, but that's cool. I have some old New York friends. They're going to be visiting you real soon.
No, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We got 10 minutes, so I want to get to the last question, which I think is very important. So this is a chance, and I know you've already talked about some of your customers already, but what specific things have you done for clients to rise above the noise? And this includes branding, storytelling, and distribution. Anything else that you guys would like to bring up? So for those watching this live and on YouTube or on Forbes, anything specific that you could bring up?
Well, you got to really let your clients know that you care, that they're just not a business transaction for you. And a lot of people these days, it's just business and they do their standard process and, either works or it doesn't work and that's the end of it. So, really you have to insert yourself into the company and be willing to go the extra mile. And if that means, look, I'm here in Utah now. I also live in Florida. But if I say I have the client and, they're in Texas, right? Yep. I'm going to ask that client, hey, do you mind if I come visit the plant, the location, see what you guys are doing, maybe stick around for a couple of meetings of your creativeness and, see what it is that you guys are doing from the ground floor there. That's really what it takes. You can't do everything from afar. So, getting personal, showing them you really care, getting immersed in their environment as they see it, I think helps immensely for what you can do with your skill set afterwards. So specifically, it's really being very personal with the clients, being available, going to see what it is, what they do in their own environment, bringing them different ideas at all times, and really caring about that customer and keeping them happy. You want to, obviously you want to keep them updated on the system, how it's going. You want to make sure that they're happy. A lot of people, maybe update their client once a month. At the end of the month, hey, here's our update, boom. And then you'll find out that the client really wasn't happy, for that entire month, but, you didn't care to reach out, so you didn't know. And now you're facing 10 problems instead of maybe just 1 or 2 that you could work on. So staying updated and, and being available to that customer, I think is key for everything else to follow smoothly. I really do.
My answer with regard to that is it's one that I've shared with people, which I'll just share with your audience because I think that it's just a great example. I had a few years ago, 64-year-old entrepreneur, and he was like, okay, I'm now ready to finally fulfill my American dream. And he had a lifelong love affair with burgers and trains. Yeah. And so he came, he says, all right, so David, so I need to create this brand, blah, 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 blah. And he had the name of it because it was on a street called Bridge Street. And so it was Bridge Street Station, and when you walked inside, it was very cool. The actual counter, behind the counter was where they served the food out of, looked like the side of an actual train car. So what was the window in the train car was actually the window where the food came out and served. And there was a train going around the perimeter, and kids loved it, and it was awesome. But my biggest problem was in the Midwest, my problem is why should anybody give a crap about one more burger joint? It's like, are you kidding? I mean, between the national chains, regional chains, and just other local options, like, are you kidding? Like, why and how? So I had to mull this over, and this is where it becomes, this is like the difference between doing informational kind of dribble crap or something that's inspirational. And so I looked at it, and it finally hit me. And we did this whole thing, and the grand opening was out of control. It was like the opening of an Apple store. But here was the whole thing. Trains and burgers. Da, 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 da. Oh, well, that actually became very interesting. That actually started to become CHEW period, which became this.
Choo choo. Oh, that's clever.
And
I haven't heard that before, David. That's clever.
Oh, yeah. And it was just amazing. People freaking went nuts and we had a new problem. Here was the new problem. The new problem was people weren't looking in the Yellow Pages or online for Bridge Station. They were looking for the Choo Choo place. So it was like we now had to have that as a supplemental. But you give something like that to Justin. Oh, are you kidding? It's gold.
Thank you.
So what happened?
Crazy.
Yeah. You hand gold to Justin. Justin, now what do you do with that? What do you do with that?
What do I do with that?
Yeah.
Okay, number one, I create the hashtag Choo Choo, okay, which is then going to take off on Instagram. Everyone's going to put their Choo Choo lunch of the day when they go to possibly win a free burger if they're chosen for the profile of the day, the pick of the day. Or, hey, we will highlight your photo on our social networks, if we like your Choo Choo, creative photo of the day. So you create a noise right immediately for the brand. You create something that people can get engaged with immediately. At the same time, the name of your company is the hashtag in this case, which I don't think there's too many choo-choos. So you're going to take that over pretty quickly. So all of a sudden you've created, friendly competition between the customers. Everyone's wanting to get involved. Some people are posting, they can't wait to go to Choo Choo so they can get their photo up there. Maybe they're the ones that are chosen for the free lunch or the photo. So immediately I'm creating, word of mouth and brand awareness. So that's what I do right away.
Okay, excellent. Well,
and it works.
Yep. Justin, David, any last pointers or anything else to add before we wrap things up?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, when it comes to, you're trying to get your name out there, okay? You're not going to be able to accomplish this just an hour a day or, I'm going to try and do this. You have to write out your plan, write out your networks you want to focus on, okay? Realize that, hey, I'm not the first one to sell a t-shirt here. I'm not the first one to come up with this idea, specifically. I mean, let's face it, every idea is kind of out there, but how can I make my idea sound unique and look unique? That's really the key here. And, figure out what your audience is and bit by bit accomplish those things. And if you don't have a plan of action, you don't have a system, then you're not going to accomplish what you're trying to do. And so once you have a system that works, you stick to that. You continue to improve it. You tweak it now and again and update. Social media changes all the time. There's updates now and there. So you have to update things now and again. But make sure you have a clear path of what you're trying to accomplish and how to do it. And research. When I first got on the internet, 4 years ago, all I did 8 hours a day was read, research, read other people that I thought were doing well, what they did. Get onto those sites like Empire Cred, join other people that are trying to do what you do. Someone might give you a helping hand. You got to be proactive, and that's what I recommend. You can't research enough. I'll be researching as soon as this is over. Great. David, any last words?
No, are we opening up a seat for somebody? Is that the next plan?
If somebody wants to jump in, yes, they can jump in. There is one question I could put up right now. This is from somebody else that didn't use a /Q. So how would you guys recommend retweeting content that pushes to other mediums and for how long? How often would you? Well, I would recommend, number one, retweeting content that's relevant to your general goal. Okay. So if you've got something, that at least is in the same industry or the same, level of news, like you're building your YouTube channel, YouTube comes out with a huge update, right? Maybe you retweet YouTube's update to your audience because they're already generally interested in YouTube. So,
you want to retweet anything that makes sense to you. Now, I'm trying to understand retweet content. Are they talking about retweeting other people's content here? Because that's what retweeting is.
Yeah, no, I think the context that it was asked in at the time was, okay, we talk about repurposing content, like for my YouTube channel, putting it out there 10 times a day.
So tweeting, tweeting again your own content.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Look, once again, only a small percent of your audience sees your content at any one time.
That's right.
Very small percent. Some people are at work right now. Some are at lunch, whatever the case is. So you want to look, I don't have a problem with you tweeting that same piece of content 3 times in a day. Okay? If you want to make variations of it a little bit, you can, sure. But the same general message, 3 times a day, no problem. Morning, afternoon, evening, okay? Maybe you want to use for the image you used for the same content, that's fine. But I'm saying even the same recurring tweet, basically recurring content. I have content that recurs every 3 days for a year, that I know is going to be there. So I know for a fact it's recurring, it's going out every 3 days. I have this piece going out every 5 days. So yeah, I'd say, as long as it's relevant and you're trying to promote it as often as you want within reason, 3 to 4, 5 times a day if you need to.
Okay, so next question. I love this question. Which social network would you say has the most valuable audience, the largest percentage of followers who actually buy? Now, let me answer this first. It really depends on where your audience is. I mean, if it's B2B, it's going to be different than B2C, and then you got all those sub-segments within that. But I've seen the most on YouTube. That's just me personally, and that's almost across the board. So for me, it's YouTube. I think Facebook is probably number 2, but it's Facebook advertising, not organic through YouTube or through influencers.
Do you use Facebook? Do you have a Facebook business page?
We do. I don't leverage it all that much. I think email for us is what we get from the email addresses, and doing campaigns for email addresses far outweighs anything I could do on the Facebook fan page. But we do use those email addresses in Facebook to do targeting.
Custom.
So that's for me.
Yeah, well, you got to use Facebook to get the email addresses.
Yeah. We don't have, well, you can with their advertising.
Really
yes. Yeah.
It really opens it up. If you can focus on using Facebook to get the email addresses through contests or giveaways, hey, got the free ebook. That's how you get tens of thousands of emails. And then the email marketing system is obviously already proven successful. These are people that have already been interested in who you are. That system works phenomenally. Some people don't have the capability to create content on YouTube. They got to get the channel. They got to have this. They have to know what they're going to say. Some people don't like to talk on camera. Who knows, right? There's so many reasons. So you're talking about a very small percentage of people that can do that as easily. But if you can, yes, YouTube has a very high result of people who buy because they see the story, they see you, they feel comfortable, they watch it on video. Much easier for them to understand what's what after a video. So I like using Facebook video. So that's what I do. I upload videos to Facebook and then use my advertising. And with the targeting that I said, you can get views for 2-3 cents a video view of your target audience, and that's where you really kill it. So you're right, though. YouTube, Facebook.
I like Facebook video as well. The problem is there's no SEO value there unless you're on Facebook. So I think you should do both YouTube video and if you're producing videos for Facebook, why not just put them up on YouTube? You're going to have a better SEO value.
Double them up there as well. Double them up there as well. But if you were to put your YouTube link on Facebook, okay,
less.
And
I know.
Promote that post, okay? Yeah. It will do well. But if you use that same video and you upload it directly to Facebook, so it's just a video that's playing on, automatic autoplay, it does. My experience, and I've done hundreds of these comparisons, 4 to 5 times as many views for the same price. So yes, you still want it on YouTube, yes. But I'm just saying to reach more people and much cheaper price, the autoplay feature on Facebook is phenomenal, and you can still get the same exact message you're trying to get there. So, that's just something to try out. And that's where you have to test things out. You wouldn't think that unless you've done it. So that's why you've got to test and see which works best for you.
David, any thoughts on this? Any thoughts on this question, David?
No, this is where I defer.
David, I've done a couple of autoplay videos for you.
What's that?
We've done a few of those autoplay videos for you on Facebook. Hit 20,000 views over one night?
Yeah. I mean, it's put it this way. It's a cumulative effect. And as far as which is for actually buying, I mean, that's where it's like, hey, Justin, Which is the largest percentage of followers that actually buy? That's how that would roll for me.